This is the story of how one man survived being lost at sea for 438 days. November 17, 2012 was just like any other day for a 35-year-old shark fisherman and his 22-year-old crewmate. They regularly fished in a small fishing village about 50 miles off the coast from Costa Azul, Mexico. Salvador, the 35-year-old shark fisherman, had planned a deep-sea fishing trip for the two of them. It was supposed to be 2 days, but there was a storm coming, and he knew that there was some risks, but decided to go forward anyways. The two of them caught almost 500 kilograms of fresh fish, but then the massive storm hit and it started thrashing their small motorboat. The storm lasted all night into the horizon, where finally the fishermen could see the horizon of the mountain in the distance. They were only a few hours away until the motor on the small boat died. He was able to radio his boss and ask for help to come get them. This was the last time he was able to contact anybody on the shore because the batteries on the radio died as well. With the storm still raging on, the two fishermen continued to try and dump water out of their boat, but they found that they were sinking at a faster rate than they wanted to. With no time to spare, they decided they needed to throw all of their fresh fish that they caught off the boat. A search party that was arranged by the boss from the two fishermen failed to find any traces of the two of them. They gave up after 2 days because of poor visibility from the continuing storm. The ocean calmed finally after 5 days, and the duo realized that they couldn't see any land anywhere, and they were thrown much further out into the ocean. They had also thrown most of their gear off of the boat in an attempt to keep the boat afloat while they were reaching land, so they had nothing to catch fish with anymore. They started learning how to catch fish with their bare hands, or on the very rare chance that a fish would land on their boat trying to jump in the water, that was their food source. On occasion they would come across plastic containers that were floating in the ocean. They would fill this up with rainwater. They knew the perils of drinking salt water, so if there was no rain, they would either have to drink turtle blood or their own urine. 4 months went by, they were doing this. The 22-year-old crewmate got sick from eating seabirds and was starting to lose hope. He succumbed to depression and made the choice to just stop eating altogether. He eventually died from starvation. 6 days after the 22-year-old crewmate's death, Salvador, the 35-year-old fisherman, threw his body into the ocean. He admitted to contemplating suicide for a few days after he dropped his friend's body into the water, but he said he was afraid of God and that he would condemn his soul for eternity. In the months that followed after this, he continued on by himself, doing the same thing, trying to survive. There were a few different trans-Pacific cargo ships that would go by his boat, and he never knew if they were real or if they were hallucinations. He would try to signal them. He would jump up and down, he would flail his arms like crazy, but nothing would happen. No one was coming to save him. On a sunny day in January of 2014, he saw birds flying above his head. Soon after this, in the distance, he could see land at the edge of the water. It was a small island that was 6,800 miles away from his initial takeoff point. He finally made it 10 yards away from the shore. He jumped into the water and just let the ocean waves take him to the land. He stumbled his way along the beach until he found himself on the property of a beach house of a local couple. After they brought him in and gave him some immediate help, they ended up taking him to the main town. He was taken to a hospital where his medical conditions were declining. After 11 days in the hospital, he was finally able to leave and go home and find his family, who was in El Salvador. The once fearless sailor is now terrified to be near water of any kind and is seeing a therapist to be able to help him get through this trauma. He also was sued by the family of the second man because they said that he ate him.